FBI Director Dan Bongino has pointed out. He's now claiming, Elizabeth, that the agency is investigating incidents related to it, saying we're dealing with copycats, sending cryptic threats to public figures using the 86 reference. Whether they turn out to be legitimate threats or not, taxpayer-funded public safety agents are going to have to run these all out and investigate them. It's a reminder of the damage self-serving individuals with a history of extremely poor judgment can do when they fail to control their impulses. Elizabeth, your thoughts on what this has now led to?
I think Bongino really does sum up the problem here, because even if James Comey didn't know exactly what he was saying in that post, he's still a public figure with a large social media following who needs to exercise extreme care when he posts, because there are a lot of mentally unstable people out there who could read that post and decide that as a call for more violence. We've already seen 2 fairly close calls on the president's life from people who are mentally unstable and sought to kill President Trump. And so I think someone who was the former FBI director really should have been more careful before making a post like this, even if he didn't have bad intentions.
If we could just switch really and pivot, if we could, back to the congresswoman in New Jersey that was recently charged for assaulting ICE officers there at an ICE facility. We've seen the the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Those charges were dropped, but he was charged as well. Bobby Epperly, just your thoughts there. The congresswoman saying she was just there to do some oversight, but there's clearly video of again, pushing against police officers. If you or I pushed a police officer, there's a good chance we could be charged or arrested. She didn't seem to think so in that moment, apparently.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just basic assault. And so if it applies to a normal citizen, it should apply to a member of Congress. We saw this back in that DOE protest where they were trying to, the poor guy is manning the front door, just following orders, and they're demanding that they should be in because they're Democrat representatives. Again, this goes back to this leftist mentality that they can say or do anything without any consequences at all. And then they're shocked. They're absolutely shocked and outraged when someone says, no, you can't do that. You have to follow the law. So I actually hope these charges go through and then she's punished for it. Maybe that'll send a message to just follow the law.
Yeah. Great point. We're going to keep watching that case. And finally, Elizabeth, I wanted to ask you, because I see you in the briefing room sometimes. There's a big book that's expected to come out today. It's called Original Sin. Jake Tapper's writing it, Alex Thompson. It's supposed to take a look back at the Biden era. This, of course, comes as we're learning about the former president's cancer diagnosis, which you hope for a recovery, but you're also wondering, how was this not spotted sooner when you're talking about the best medical health and assistance that the former president deserves, quite frankly. What are you watching for in Washington when it comes to media coverage? Have you noticed that maybe that's the hype around this book has settled because of the cancer diagnosis?
I think a lot of the hype around this book is pretty uncalled for, considering conservative media saw the president's decline for years. For years, many reporters were saying that Biden is declining and that the White House is covering it up. And the fact that these 2 liberal reporters didn't notice it until after the 2024 election shows that they were very late to the game. But I do agree that the timing of the announcement of the cancer announcement, which we're very sorry to hear, and this book is very odd and raises a lot of questions.
And that is Elizabeth Mitchell sharing her opinion on that. And Bobby Epperly, thank you both so much for being our panelists. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Also at the Daily Signal, columnist Jarrett Stepman is here live with us, our special guest. Jarrett, let's just jump to that if we could, and maybe on the heels of your colleague there speaking about the hype around Original Sin in this book by Alex Thompson and Jake Tapper, the cover-up. There's a lot of media that are criticizing even writing this book if you were in the news in the first place. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I really do think it's one of the greatest scandals in American history. I mean, people are covering this as if, well, this was problematic for these years, but it really is a scandal. This was a president who potentially wasn't healthy or capable of doing the job from the day he entered the White House. This is unprecedented in American history. Yes, there was Woodrow Wilson, who had a series of strokes at the very tail end of his presidency, but he didn't run for another term. This is a man who was going to be potentially running for another term until he was derailed by a terrible debate performance. So there are a lot of questions now. How long has President Joe Biden, how long did he have cancer? answer. Does this go back into his term, or does it actually go back before? And why weren't the American people notified about that? And why are so many in the elite media, whose job it is to observe politics and observe what's happening, couldn't understand something that regular Americans with common sense could see anytime they saw Biden on television or doing an interview?
It seems to be totally fair, too, just based on the Biden administration's track record, to question it. I'm sorry, we're getting this detail from the doctor, but why did the doctor, when President Biden was president, miss that? You got to ask.
And this is one of the most observed men in the world,
Yeah.
assumedly. This is the president of the United States whose health, I mean, look, it determines what happens in global politics. Can he handle these big decisions of state? It doesn't seem like he could handle even the small decisions of personal matters. And that's really disturbing when you think about that, what the executive branch really matters in the modern day world.
It really does. Transparency is key. And Jared Stepman's going to be staying with us throughout for more conversations. Again, still watching for the president and potentially Speaker Mike Johnson to discuss what was discussed with the president on the One Big Beautiful Bill. When that happens, we'll bring it to you live. Coming up.